If you are not using AI, you're really doing yourself a disservice. I've spent the last 13 months educating myself on AI. I have always been a public extrovert and a private introvert. Always.
You're listening to the Driven Introvert Podcast, a faith-inspired space for purposeful introverts who are ready to step out with courage and pursue their big ideas. If you are an introvert who is tired of letting fear dictate what you do and how you do it, then this podcast is for you. I'm here to remind you that the life and work you've dreamed about is possible, and your unique personality is not a limitation to achieving it. I'm your host, Remy Roy, and I'm the co-founder of shepact.com. On this podcast, I'll feature introverts and others with unique perspectives on what it means to follow dreams, passionately build out ideas, and live a life that matters. Expect inspiring conversations, resources, reflections, and stories on faith, life, and work. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the podcast. This is part 2 of my conversation with Coach Anna McCoy, and we delve into even more insightful ideas I'm excited to bring to you. If you haven't listened to part 1, go ahead and listen to that now and then continue with this conversation here. Let's go. Well, I don't think that was it, to be honest, and I'm not trying to be whatever here. I moved roles a little bit because I started to do graphic design in that same company. And I love that better, but the company just downsized. I think they lost a big client, and that was a huge.
Okay, so now let me re-ask the question.
All right, I love this.
So the question is, were you successful at that job?
I don't feel like I was.
But tell me why you don't feel like it versus the fact of you being successful, right? Because you're saying, I don't feel like I was successful versus you. What kind of remarks did other people say about you?
I mean, one of my managers sent me a thank you card because she thought I was doing a good job. I don't know if that matters, but I guess in my head,
why wouldn't it? Yes. This is my point. Listen. This is such a beautiful example of how we talk ourselves. We talk ourselves into being.
Oh my God.
Being failures in this way. It's like if you legitimately look at your actions, see what you're saying, you're comparing your feelings to what you actually did, what you were capable of, your capabilities, right?
Yes,
your actions, your execution. And I already know you don't have to tell me if you were good at this job. I know if it had deadlines, you met them. I know that you were capable if they told you what they wanted you to do. Now, what you didn't like was the job. You didn't like it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with not liking it. But it's not a stamp on your capabilities. You know, we're good at things because we have skill sets. We have knowledge. And then if you put on top of those two things, your ability to keep your commitments and your agreements and build trust with your team, with the people that you're working with. Now, that's what real work is about. When we add the next layer of that to joy and passion about our subject matters, then it just pushes the stuff over the top. It's no longer work. It's like enjoyable. This is what I was called for. This is purpose.
I love it.
And so you can't subtract all of the things that you did effectively as being unsuccessful. You have to learn how to live in those moments. And well, you can separate them from your good success, right? And leave them where they are. That's exactly what that was. You didn't like the work, but you could do the work. So it has nothing to do with your failure or your success. It's not a failure. It's a point that I made a decision and you got some clarity. I'm not doing that anymore. Moving on.
I love it.
See? Because it didn't make you feel good. And that's wonderful because you're not going to do it again. You're not going to stay in the same grind. Many people never get off the wheel. They know it doesn't feel good. They become stressful. They get sick. They get ill. But again, going right back to that moment where I said, you may have where I thought this was a different situation. Most people will stay because of the work, because of they have a job, they don't want to quit, they don't want change, all of these things, and they stay on the wheel. In your case, not the case. I don't believe that that's the case for you. Just receive it as that's one for the books. Moving on. Took it for the team, and let's get going. And you have to ask yourself, how much of that are you using today, that knowledge base, in a way that brings you joy?
Yeah. Gosh, I love it. Coach, I didn't know this was going to be a coaching session today, but I love it.
Well, that's kind of, when you talk to a coach, it's hard not to be coached, right?
That's what you get.
It's in the genes to, yes. I mean, when you live a life of encouragement, right? To encourage people, you just want them to live their best life and be the absolute best in anything. In direct opposition, I'm rising up, right? Yeah. I'm like, okay, no. Let's just go ahead and talk about that for a second, because if that we call them gremlins, is talking to you, it's going to meet you up ahead somewhere. And it doesn't have any place in your life, because we're reframing the way you look at it. Right? So it doesn't come up again for you. It's not a part of your story anymore. You've reframed that story, and you can reframe the story in a way that, if I were to ask you, what was one of the work experiences that you learned the most from, right? This could be one of those experiences that you learned the most from, that said, what I learned is that I learned to really be able to accept and define how I wanted to work in life. And this wasn't it, right? But it helped me to become even more clear about what really mattered to me and how I wanted to participate in this digital world. And that was graphic design. So I wouldn't have come to that knowledge without this opportunity. So for that, I'm grateful.
Gosh, that's so true. And there's something I used to be very insecure about, which kind of ties to what you're saying now. Growing up, and for so long, not even just growing up as a child, even as an adult, up until very recently, or even sometimes now, to be honest with you, I used to think that I don't know what I want to do, but I do know what I don't want to do.
Yes.
So when I tell people I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, and they ask me, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, so you just don't know anything. And it used to make me so insecure. Like, I didn't know where I wanted to go and how do I square that? Yeah. And that's one experience that job actually taught me, is that I know that I don't want to do this. But the time that I left that job, I couldn't tell what I wanted to do. I was just still in this phase of, I'm not sure, Yeah, that was pretty hard.
Well, that's all right. I mean, the hard things are just the stepping stones to the next.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love, I can tell you this, is that when we're talking about confidence, again, everything happens situational, right? That was a situation you were in. It wasn't a condition. It was a situation that you made a decision about. You're going to be faced with new situations, and how you approach those is certainly going to determine how confident you are. I'm of the mindset, I am confident. Right? Yeah. I am. That's the first step of confidence, right? Then, because I am confident, then I'm going to prepare myself for certain things and not just show up off the cuff, not just procrastinate for the last minute, not just because my end goal is to be confident in that particular situation. And so my mindset is I am. Now I've got to prepare myself to execute that confidence when I'm faced with a certain situation. I hope that really encourages someone, because I think many of us will wallow in our lack of self-confidence. And you're not even in a situation, right?
That's
it's like
true.
you're just going off of your past experiences, what you did in that situation, what you did in that situation. So,
gosh, I love that. When we were working on the foundational concept for She Packed, I reached out to you, and you had me do an exercise. What you wanted me to do was to envision my ideal scene. and to write it down,
Mm-hmm.
to write it down like it had already happened. And I'd done something similar in the past, mostly when I was thinking about my career and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do to make an income in a way that really, works for me. And I was really stuck at the time. I was trying to figure out how to just thrive, I didn't go into so much detail when I did that exercise. I didn't, and I wish I had, because I think my vision could have been clearer as to what I really wanted. Can you talk to us about that exercise and why it's so powerful, and walk us through how to really lean into it?
Yes, we have, I call that's actually what we call our GPS, your goal positioning system. And it's a simple process. Oftentimes to reach a goal, the first thing you do is what is the goal, right? We identify that goal. The very next thing you do is identify what behavior you need to change to get to the goal.
Okay.
Most people don't even consider that. We call them policies, whether it's a team. What different policies do we need to put in place? And policies are not always bad things. They're structural things, right? Once that happens, then we identify the projects that we want to achieve, then the executable steps that we want to do specifically, 2 to 3 steps under each one of those. And then once we finish that, then there's this question. Now we know what we have to do, right? The work that we have to do. Now I want everybody to pause, and I want you to think about the ideal scene. I want you to see all this work completed. I want you to see the results of what results and outcomes are different, by the way, but I want you to see the outcome, the image of what you've just created. And when you can take a moment to write a 1 to 2 sentence ideal scene on anything that you want to do, any goal, right, that you want to achieve, your opportunity or your percentage skyrockets to your ability to complete it. Why? Because it gives you a clear visual space. Now, that is the ideal scene, because in that ideal scene, it is present tense. And that's where I started to tell you, why don't you identify what it is now, where most of us, we talk about what we're going to do in the future. Yeah. What ShePacks looks like now is an organization that caters to women leadership who might consider themselves introverts. They are walking in confidence and exceptional leadership as introverted C-level individuals. See, that's a very present tense situation. If you want to make it more colorful, you can do that as well. And that's where AI comes in. To help you to really, create an image of something, or just the words, to flower those words up a little bit more so that you have a greater impact on your imaging so that you can move towards that. It's really quite powerful when I think about bringing AI into that whole GPS, because we didn't have it previously, right? We had to sit there and think about all these things. And then when people don't think they're good writers, they impact their ability to visualize their outcome. Yeah. And that's where where I think AI using the Audible features or using ChatGPT or Bard can actually help us break that barrier and become even more effective.
I love it. I
thought I'd just throw that in there for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about that. I love that. So right now we're doing like a series in ShePacks where we have some questions to really bring out people's stories, because sometimes I feel like it's all in our head. We don't know. We don't even, we can't break down the things that we've been through, we've walked through, the lessons we've learned and all of that. So, and I'm encountering this with, some of the ladies, is just finding it difficult to put words to their experiences, to answer the questions in a way that really helps them think and contemplate and reflect and, kind of bring that out. And that will be helpful to somebody else. So I really love the idea of, the AI aspect of things and how we can use that to enhance our workflow. And thinking about young women, and also when we think about our faith, from the perspective of being women of faith, I have a question. When you think about the future, how do you think young women of faith can be uniquely positioned to thrive? and walk in the halls of power and influence. Not just as, we're consumers, we're taking out in all this information, we're buying all the stuff, we're using all the things, but as creators and producers, how can we thrive?
Hi, friend. Are you enjoying the podcast? May I ask you a favor? Please take a moment to leave a review of the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews are very important and help other people find the Driven Introvert podcast. I'd really appreciate if you could rate the show and also leave a written review. You can review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Now back to the podcast.
Well, I think that when we think about being women of faith, right, and being persons of faith, when I think about my journey, and I have traveled all over the world, I think when we think about being a person of faith is what's within you and how you value your life, right? And what values you build your beliefs upon, and your beliefs then actually will influence your actions. And so years ago, I came up with this whole idea of kingdompreneur. You probably heard of it now, but I tried trademarking it probably 25 years ago before we were ever talking this language of kingdom entrepreneurship in that way. But I will say this is that we're in a environment, right, where our Christian faith is I would almost say in some ways being hijacked, right? Being minimized because of all of the polarity in politics. It's starting to create an image of a believer or a Christian that is unfortunately not as sound as we truly are, right? We're going to see that continue to unfold in the next decades, how that experience is going to impact your ability to walk as a woman of faith in the workplace, in all of these types of things. I do believe that regarding your question, how do women of faith thrive? You thrive, right? You flourish not because you are a woman of faith in the marketplace. It's because you are a woman of faith. Meaning that your faith directly connects you to your outcomes, to your beliefs, to your actions, how you show up with your values, your core values in a marketplace, or if you're starting a business. And that's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is that you can start your business based on strong biblical foundations and values. We can look at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has not moved from their core values. Their core values is being kind to people, providing high quality things, valuing family. They do it by being closed on Sundays so that their people can do what? Rest. That's how we in the marketplace, how we can show up by making decisions that have a higher value, perhaps on people and community, than what we would do in the normal mainstream. And so I think when it comes to our faith, I know that I have been in circles around the world. I've been in cabinet rooms. I've been sitting with presidents. All of these things that you think about, you know what I mean? You see those people over there, but the reality is that all of us are individuals and we're just humans. We've got different roles and responsibilities to play. But my role in that moment sometimes is to be a voice of consciousness, a voice of good, a voice of spirit, a voice that says, thus said the Lord for this particular moment, right? And being willing and courageous enough to do it. And I've gotten myself, along with my dear friend Linda Wallace, we've gotten ourselves in all sorts of situations, but we did it because we believed. We were women of faith. We were being messengers of God. We were sent ones. And these are the messages that we were to give. And so I would encourage any woman that is a believer or a woman of faith, could be any religious person, because you are those things if you have the ability to carry them out. There's a place for you in the marketplace. your character, your integrity, your values, your creativity, your genius. It's all available, and you don't have to shrink back because you're a woman of faith. You don't have to put your faith on, over here to be able to be exceptional in the marketplace. And I would encourage you to just go with that. Just go with it. And don't use it as because I am, then maybe I can do this or that. Just live it, and it'll open doors for you as you move forward.
I love it. Thank you for that, Coach. That's inspiring and encouraging. So speaking of kingdompreneurs, let's talk about how women can really use technology, the tools that we have. You talked about AI, the tools that are available to actually move ahead with business, because women will find ourselves in different situations. Maybe you have a family, you have a lot going on, so somehow you're not able to use all of the time that you would have if you have all the other responsibilities to focus on your business and really move fast and move forward. There's a class that you teach on AI. How can we use the tools, to actually improve our workflow and do more in a short period of time?
You know what? I would say this: if you are not using AI, you're really doing yourself a disservice, right? And if you don't take the step to be proactive in this, you're going to take the step. And when you do, it may be a lot more painful than it is now, because it may cost you an opportunity. It may cost you your job. It may cost you something that if you take the time now, and I mean now, to begin to think about how you can use it, how you can incorporate it into the things that you're doing. And it takes time to do this. I've spent the last 13 months educating myself on AI, not just using Chat GPT or some of these different applications you might see on social media that they tell you to go and do. But I've taken the time to understand what machine learning is, what large language models, neural networks, deep learning, what does this mean, and what type of applications are going to affect our future. And so I really consider myself a futurist, right? I've always been a high tech person, like thinking in the future. And so for those individuals, it doesn't matter what you're doing. And this is the thing about women. We create more needs-based entrepreneurship than anyone, especially women of color. Right? You need some money, so you go out and sell lipstick. You need some money, you figure out something. And then some of these opportunities turn into incredible business enterprises. And so we're going to continue to do that. But in doing so, stop trying to figure this out. There is no badge of honor for you to try to figure out how to communicate, how to create a landing page, how to write an email newsletter about a subject matter that is important to you. You don't get a badge of honor because you can write it and not refer to anything. You know what I'm saying? It's like moving from typewriters to word processing. I just like my typewriter. Yeah, but now 1 sheet, 2 sheet, you done ran out of whiteout. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on now, let's just move on, because this is what's called. See, what's going to happen to people? I'm one of the people that have visionary change. I'm a visionary changer. I embrace it. The early adopter. I'm like looking for what's getting ready to change, looking for the trend. And then there are some people who will just evolve with it. But in this case, there will be many people who will evolve out of crises. They won't be able to keep up. They're trying to figure out how are they producing these amazing things, where they're producing it because they're using tools. How can they produce that contract so quickly, or that PowerPoint presentation so quickly? Where are they getting these ideas? This is what you must understand. Nothing is happening until you give Chat GPT or whatever AI system a prompt to do something. If we can get over that hump, then everybody's equal. Once you're able to learn what types of things that AI can do, now you can start to excel and then begin to focus on how can this help my business? So let me just, if I can take a moment, I was walking just a couple of days ago, 30-minute walk. In that 30 minutes, I created 14 outlines for different books I was just thinking about. Now, in my past life, before AI, I would sit there and I would mull over one book for 8 years. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so when we think about this, and I am using the Audible version of AI, I'm not writing it out. And this is what I encourage everyone to do, is use the Audible version, right? So that you can just speak what you're thinking. And as soon as you speak that, it's going to do its thing. And you don't have to worry and get stuck behind the writer's block wall. I don't know what to say. What should I tell it to do? But you know how to talk. And see, here's the objective of AI, is to get so good that you'll be so comfortable talking to it just like you and I are talking. That's the goal. The goal is not for you to type in a prompt. The goal is for you to speak to it, to communicate to it. That's why you're going to have the thing in your ear that's the size of this or smaller, that is a complete AI learning system. A whole model is sitting in your ear on a little, an AI chip, but it's going to fit in your ear. You won't be able to do it. You'll say, oh, I need such and such. Yes, go ahead and do something. Do this, do this. There's a device that came out at the CES called Rabbit One, which they put the chip in a little box, right? A little device that you can talk to, and that's speaking to us just like this. And so I would just encourage anyone, I know you've heard all the stuff that AI is going to do. Keep listening to the foolishness, okay? It's going to do all that because there are always bad actors in the world. But for you, I know you're not that person. You're not the bad actor. You're the person that needs this to help you get that newsletter out, to help you get that landing page done, to help you communicate to that grant writer that you want to apply for that grant. That's who you are. And you need to get that in your mind, that there's something out here to help me be better at what I do. And I'm telling you, it's to get smart with AI. So you can check out annamccoy.com and take that course. I'll be adding another course soon. And so just send me an email that you're interested in, and I'll make sure that you get on the list.
Absolutely. I love it. Your coach she has the goods. Every time I'm like, I need a tool for something, there's a tool that coach can point me to, and that's amazing. Yes. Yeah. So we are just extending this open invitation to everyone listening. Mm-hmm. If you want to learn more about how to use AI to improve your business and your workflow, get on it. It's called Get Smart with AI. We will leave all the links in the show notes so that you can find it. And thank you so much. Awesome. Mm-hmm. So I remember when we were working on the website for ShePact, not the website, but just the foundational concept for ShePact, you had, you said you took the quiz. Are you a driven, introverted woman? I guess my question is, Coach, are you an introvert? Like, where do you fall on that spectrum? I'm really curious.
This is so beautiful because I think over time you will change, right? When I wrote Woman Act Now, I was in my 40s, right? Now I'm in my I'm late 50s, close to 60. Yeah. And what happens is we change. And I also believe that personalities are different than we have what's called our public personas. Then we have a private persona. I have always been a public extrovert and a personal private introvert. Always. I have always been a person that can really entertain myself, like constant head down in learning, constantly being introspective, constantly pursuing spiritual growth. All of those are internal things. Yep. These are things and I'm not in all relationships. I wasn't the talker, although extroverted, out in public, I can talk and communicate and walk in a room. I can talk to every single person there. It doesn't drain my energy. I'm there to bring energy. You see what I'm saying? So as soon as I walk in, I know that who I am in this public environment. I've always felt that as soon as I walk out of my home, I have a responsibility to bring love, to bring joy, to bring passion and energy to the public, even if it's the person, my neighbor down the street. or, it's just, that's how I live my life. And so I would have to say after COVID, during COVID, when I didn't have the public personality at work, I became more of my authentic self. And that authentic self is more introverted, meaning I don't need a lot of friends for me. I don't have to be engaged in everything. I don't have to be a part. I am shocked that I could be working remotely in my home for weeks at a time and never go anywhere. I'm talking to the grocery store. You see what I'm saying? And so, and it brings me so much joy. But I communicate to people, you know what I'm saying? I communicate to my family and friends and different things like that. But at the end of the day, if I'm called upon, I'm showing up 100% because I have the skill set of being an extrovert. You understand? I've got that skill. And so many of my friends, even now, have had to go through a transformational experience with me over the last 3 to 4 years because they've noticed that I've changed. And I've just become more of who I truly am and who I want to be in my future. Like that's being a thought leader, a guide, a spiritual sage, things that take time to develop, on the internal or the intrinsic values that I have, as opposed to my external persona.
Yeah, I love it.
But
Coach. Yeah, that's like a revelation, like a personal revelation that you come to. And I love the fact that you mentioned you can entertain yourself for days.
Yes.
Like you can just head down, stay there and do your thing. I love it. I guess my question is, what part of your daily or weekly routine is really giving you joy right now? You mentioned joy and peace. What part of the things that you do, maybe every day or every week, whatever, that just makes you feel like, yeah, this is peaceful.
This is good.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I've been listening to this deep meditation sleep music, like 432 hertz. And honestly, I can say this is the part that brings me joy. Total separation from everything. It's like I wake up refreshed, like I sleep better. And then like I feel like I'm in this meditative state of joy, just pure joy that there's no requirement of me. But that's happening right here in my brain. Like when I do deep work, right? When I have to do my focus work, I have a process. I put my little beats on, then I use this app called Indel. Then I put my focused timer on 25 minutes for 4 rounds.
What are you trying to do in that?
So when I have to do really focused work, like when I finish today, I have to work on a client's presentation for a real estate project. So I need to focus my attention to organize that presentation, statistics, you name it, finances, you name it. So I've got to put the whole, it's going to probably end up being 10 to 15 pages by the time I'm finished. And so that I don't get distracted, I'll go into what I call my deep focus, right? Where you use maybe a little lo-fi music, you put on, or if I use my Indel, it's scientific for deep focus. So it creates these neural beats that keeps my focused attention. I do it for 25 minutes. When it dings the bell, I stop, I get up from my desk, I go get a drink of water, grab an apple or whatever, right? Come back, 25 minutes. And now, all my devices are off. I'm just focused. So now I've done that 4 times. That's the Pomodoro method as well. But I do that 4 times. And now my ability to produce in those 4 25-minute segment is far greater than me trying to figure this out. Just sit down, let me do it now. And I got all these interruptions. Gosh. So I am a definite practice, use it as a practice in my work. On a daily basis. I also have the practice of prayer and meditation. And meditation for me is being quiet. I just want to be quiet. I want to pause the things I'm doing. I want to press into the presence of God. I want to perceive what God is saying for me. Then I want to perform those things.
I love it. Coach, I love the way your mind works. It's just so amazing. Thank you so much for those just brilliant insights.
You're welcome.
I didn't do this at the beginning of the podcast, but I want to sort of just get a simple, high level who Coach Anna is. Because I'm sure at this point, people have listened to all of this. You've talked about business, you've talked about AI, you've talked about coaching, you've talked about empathy, confidence, faith, so many things, right? I'm sure they're like, who is this woman? Like, backstory, please. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you've done, your experience, and who you are? Who's Coach Anna?
Thank you for asking. When I think about who I am, I could say this: I'm an intentional human that has had an opportunity to do many different things over my career. I have, I've started a business back in 1998 called Urban America. It's still here today. It's almost 25 years later. We've raised over almost $1 billion to do projects around the United States. Today, we're doing master development work. I'm not in the business on a full-time basis, but that's still important to us to build community while we're building our apartments, building, our community space there. We're breaking ground on soon in Kansas City on a project that we're doing there in South Point and Prospect. That's really important to the city. So from that, I've been an author. I've written 3 books. I've traveled the world to educate and empower women. I've been to probably over 40 countries and just spent a lot of time giving back to the world as much as I can of my intelligence, of my genius, of my kindness, and most importantly, you are loved and appreciated, and sharing that message around the world. That's really, really important to me. When it comes to my past, I don't talk a lot about it. You know what I mean? It's because it's in the past. I am more intentional about what I'm doing in my present. All of those things help me be who I am today, but they are not what I am. You know what I'm saying? It's a knowledge base that I can tap into. And it certainly is social proof that I'm intelligent. I've been successful, those kinds of things. And I'm most interested in people knowing my heart, right? That my intention, that I am a guide. I'm always helpful to try to help people to the next level. When it comes to what I do for business, is I help people solve their problems, whether it's business or whether it's personal. I use my skill set as a consultant to help them navigate, their business strategy to get the results that they're after. And that could be whether it's a consultant or in coaching, both of those things apply. What I think I am most interested in doing, and that is doing things that will change the world. Right now, I'm out here making it just like everybody else, and this is my pathway, right? Through business consulting, using AI, training people, educating people. But I have some other much, much bigger and larger events that will happen in my life until I get to that moment. You know what I'm saying? And so having been a person of wealth and then taking a journey, being married, going through divorce, that's terrible for anyone. And it certainly was not the best for me. And then having to recover, re-emerge. And then with COVID, that completely put a whole nother life into works,
Yeah.
Income went to zero. All of these things happen that now on this side in 2024, I am grateful for the access and the opportunity to continue to build a better future for myself. And I think it would require another discussion on when we get to confidence, and we talk about this at a different age, you know, in your 50s and your 60s. That's a different conversation that I'd love to have with you as it relates to some of the experiences that I've had. I wrote Womanac now in my 40s. My 50s was a part of unbecoming to become who I am now. It's taken me literally these 8 years to build a new foundation for myself. And I'm on that pathway now.
I love it. I love it, Coach. And definitely you're going to come back on the podcast. And I also see like a ShePact workshop, you know, to talk about business, talk about AI, talk about, you know, just confidence, all of these things. I see that happening.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Love you with all my heart. I'm so glad we're able to do this today. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Driven Introvert podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to click the follow button on your podcast app or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. As always, don't forget to take courage, trust God, and go pursue your big ideas. See you next time. The Driven Introvert podcast is produced by shepact.com and Remy Roy, with content, editing, and strategy expertise from Candice Zakaria and Aishat Olariwaju. Want to ask a question or share a comment on a future episode? Email us today at thedrivenintrovert@shepact.com or click on the link in the show notes to record your question in a voicemail.
Hey friend, do you know your strengths? I know you want to live a fulfilling life, right? You want to feel like your life is your own and not like you're in the wrong movie acting the wrong part. But do you know your strengths? Are you operating from your strengths at work and in your calling? Or does everything feel hard and like a chore? I know what it feels like to not know where you belong. And for me, discovering my strengths and really taking steps to deploy them effectively has been very crucial to helping me feel more fulfilled and excited about life. If this resonates with you, if you'd like to find out more about your strengths, I have a free gift for you. It's called the Uncover Your Strengths Free Guide. In this guide, you'll find tools, tests, and resources to help you find your strengths. There'll be space in there to write down your discoveries. There'll be reflection questions to help you dig deeper, and prayers to help you seek the Lord for wisdom on how to move forward. I hope you lean into this. I hope you not only download this guide, but also use it, grow, and be empowered to pursue your next steps in faith, work, and life. You can get it today at shepact.com/strengths. The link will also be in the show notes. That's shepact.com/strengths.